Ask yourself every question before you ask anyone else. I don't think they'll ask themselves questions enough. I think they want feedback from other people, but I think that's often at the expense of asking themselves.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good morning, David Tao. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
I'm great. It's a beautiful morning here in New York where I'm calling from. So I have very few complaints right now.
That's wonderful. Well, I am so glad to connect with you. Looking forward to this conversation. Please do tell all of us what's the one thing that you've been doing consistently that has created this potential conversation to occur today.
Well, I am the co-founder and editor-in-chief of BarBend.com. I've been doing that for almost 4 years, and we're a website, a content website and podcast and video production company for strength sports, so weightlifting and powerlifting. And that's kind of been my passion for the past few years, and building a business around that's been that consistent thing I've been working on day in and day out.
Now, do you lift?
I do. I'm a recreational CrossFitter at this point. I used to be a competitive weightlifter, and I've dabbled in pretty much every strength sport. So that's where the interest and the passion came from.
Wow. And of course, the deep conversations. I mean, you're not just interviewing someone from the perspective of, hey, you're a great person. Like, you know the ins and outs, right?
Right. When you talk to these people, and I mean, our readership and our listener base and our viewers, they know what they're doing. Many of them are weightlifters and powerlifters and CrossFitters themselves. So it's not enough to be like, how much do you lift? That's not that interesting. They want something a little deeper. They want to get into the training, the mindset on a deeper level. So our content can't just scratch the surface.
There's an entire conversation that's going on with lifting from the perspective of what you put in, the work you put in. It's just a ton of science that goes behind it. Who did you learn that from, that ability to focus on the smaller things in life, if that's even accurate?
No, I mean, I think it is. I mean, in the weightlifting sense and in the strength sports sense, I should say, there's so much information out there. It's almost impossible to just get it from one place. So I think the story of people who learn in strength training and strength sports, it's a story of them learning a little bit from a bunch of different people, or a lot from a bunch of different people. I don't think anyone can say, I learned everything I know from this one person, because you're right, the science is so complex. There's constantly new research coming out, which is something we cover a lot of. So I think it's really a story of, learning from 100 different teachers as opposed to one. And I think a lot of people in the space would say the same thing.
And given the fact that it could be daunting, why will you continue nevertheless on this path with BarBend? Why will you? Come on, why will you continue doing this, David?
Well, I think it's largely because I want BarBend to be the resource that I never had. I do want BarBend to be that place you can go to get the majority of your knowledge. You want news about what's happening in strength sports? Great. You want information on how to get better at lifting? Great. You can come to BarBend and you can get all of that in the form of articles and podcasts and videos and you name it. And that exists for a lot of other industries, but in strength sports, it doesn't really exist in that way. And I think that we're already toward the top of quality, of course, of what we're producing. I'm a little biased in that regard, obviously, but we want to be that resource where, okay, you have a question, you want to get better at this stuff, you want to learn more, you start here, and maybe you go other places as well. But we want to be that starting point that I was always hoping to find when I was younger, but could never find. So I think oftentimes we build the things that we want to use. You have the conversations with people that you want to have, and you use this podcast as a way to talk with people who you want to talk to. So it's really kind of a tool for our own personal ends in a way.
Well, amazing audience. Again, you're hearing it live from David Tao. You can check him out at BarBend.com. You can check the podcast out, right? Amazing conversations going on there at BarBend Podcast. My friend, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
Oh my goodness. The biggest thing, aside from my work life, that I've been focused on the past 3 years is improving my sleep. I think sleep is the most, and obviously in like strength training and fitness, sleep is important, but I think Sleep is so important for well-being, mental and physical health, and it's a thing that I just ignored for so long of my life. So learning about how my body reacts to sleep, how to get better sleep, it's improved literally every aspect of my life. And it's been a journey. I've tried things that have made my sleep worse. I've tried things that have made my sleep better. Focusing on that and making that a big priority and something that I'm willing to kind of change my habits around has been life-changing in every way. Literally every aspect of my life has changed because of that. And as my sleep improves, every aspect of my life improves.
Is it sleep that's responsible for this smile I see on this guy's face?
I think the photo you're looking at, I'm sure I must have rested well the night before for that. It might be, I don't remember exactly when that was taken.
The photo I'm looking at is on the website, on the
Mhm.
BarBend.com website. Or you buy something that looks like weights for sure. You're
Yeah,
standing.
yeah, yeah. I must have slept well then because, but yeah, no, I think it's an important thing, and I think it's something that's so important. I mean, everyone does it as a human. It's something we all do and need to do, but we just ignore it for so much of our lives, or fight against it and try and get as little as possible for so much of our lives. But once I was able to kind of embrace the fact that this is a good thing and getting more of it is a good thing, it really, like I said, it trickled down to every other aspect of my person.
I had one person that I saw that was placing focus on sleep, as you said. And yeah, I mean, like this guy, he had the bed, like the water running through so he could monitor the temperatures during the night. Is it to that level?
I am monitoring the temperature of my sleeping environment. I don't have a water cooled bed, but I am like very conscientious
Mm,
of the temperature in my sleeping environment. So
yeah.
that is a pretty it is a pretty important thing. But
Yeah.
like bed timing, the amount of like darkness versus light, all
Yeah.
that sort of
The
stuff.
sound, the white noise
Oh
in the
yeah,
back end. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is tough in New York because New York's very loud.
Yeah, he's in DC, and I guess around the same type of scenario. Yeah, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, blackouts. Yeah, so good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's switch gears for a moment, David. Let me invite you now into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. David, what's your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory is probably eating cherry pie that my mom made, which is like I think food and smell are so tied to memory, and there's a lot of biological components of that about how smell might be the sense most tied to memory. So whenever I smell cherries or I smell cherry pie, I remember eating cherry pie as a very young child. And that's a
Hmm.
pretty good first memory, honestly, because it's, who doesn't like that, right? Who doesn't like pie? So
So, how old were you in that memory?
I my guess is, I mean, this is something that she made a lot when I was growing up. So my guess is I was two and a half, three, around there.
Wow. So how do you see that connecting to who you are today, though? I mean, let's go to from a metaphorical perspective.
Well, I'm a lover of food. That's for sure. And I think that a big reason you'll find people who are in athletics and in strength athletics is that they like to eat. So they like to participate in sports where you get to eat.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's
you get
really
to eat a
cool.
lot.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I remember hearing Dave Ramsey saying that. He's like, I run marathons so I can eat.
Right.
That's really cool. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Um, Probably something by, this is going to date me. Probably something by Eminem. I mean, that was like what all the cool kids were listening to when I was like 12 and 13. That was right before, that was like the year, that was the middle school years. Everyone's so awkward in middle school, and I feel like I would just listen to whatever I thought was popular.
Okay.
So Eminem was super popular at the time. But I feel like you don't really figure out what music you really like until like your teenage years. I feel like when you're
Mhm.
between like 10 and 13, you'll listen, if you have older siblings, you'll just emulate what they're listening to, or you'll listen to just what everyone else is listening to. And then it's not until you're like 17, 18, you're like, oh wait, that's actually the music I like.
Hmm, understood. Yeah, yeah. It's really intriguing how we metamorphosize through music. That's really cool. All right. Well, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
David, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
No.
Are you married?
I'm not.
Do you have children?
No.
Do you believe in God?
I do.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
I do not.
How about 3 hours a week?
Yeah.
What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It's more than 8.
All right. If you had to share with us your own unique, real statement, a statement that represents who you are, David Thomas Tao, what would you say that is?
Ask yourself every question before you ask anyone else. I don't think they'll ask themselves questions enough. I think they want feedback from other people, but I think that's often at the expense of asking themselves.
Do you speak more than one language?
I do not. I wish I did. Oh my God, I wish I did.
Yeah, me too. All right, David. Well, again, this was a great pleasure. Before we leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
No, thank you so much for having me. And I always love listening to the variety of guests you have. So look forward to tuning in for future episodes.
Yeah.
Hope everyone else does the same.
I appreciate you. Again, amazing audience. BarBend podcast. Check him out. The guy is just doing a ton of stuff and video. And he is doing a video as well. Just like a ton of work. How do you get time to lift when you're doing all of this work, David? Right. Wow. David Tao. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.